Can you see me and hear me now? So let's have a look at the questions here. What would you do if you won $1 million in a lottery and you had to spend it in 10 days? Try to write me some sentences using second conditional in this form. You can also change would to might or could, just as I said. Hello, everyone. Can you hear it? Okay, so the task is still the same. Try to write second conditional sentences in these different situations. What would you do if you won $1 million in a lottery and you had to spend it in 10 days? Or what would you do if you had a chance to travel around the world, all expenses paid for 7 days, but would lose your job? And also the last one, what would you do if you left something in a locked building? Okay, so let's have a look at them. Okay, that's very good. So Antonella wrote, if I won $1 million, I would buy a big house in LA. Others? Someone with could or might? If I won $1 million, I could start my own business. Or I might spend it on traveling. What about the second one? If you had the chance to travel around the world, would you go? Losing your job? Or you would stay home and go to work every day, just as always? All right. Well, if I left something in a locked building, I would definitely call the receptionist to let me in. Right. A little bit. Another question, second conditional. What would you do if you could spend 20 minutes talking to the president of your country? Or what would you do if a famous movie star worth millions of dollars knocked on your apartment door and asked you to marry him or her? What would you do if a dog on the street started talking to you in Okay, we have some other really good ones. Really good. Stefania and Antonella, nice job. If I had the chance to travel around the world, but in time would lose my job, I would sing on the streets. Okay, amazing. You could always find a job, a remote job, or just find another one when you get home from work traveling. Let's see the next one as well. So what would you do if you could spend 20 minutes talking to the president of your country? If I could spend 20 minutes talking to the president of my country, I'm pretty sure that wouldn't be enough, but I would use it well to tell everything to him that I have problems with or that I think should be different. Okay, in the meantime, we can have a look at another one, the third, which is our next conditional part as well. When is the third conditional used and how is it formed? The question. Well, first of all, if past perfect, we would have plus past participle form. Past perfect, we mean simple and continuous as well. What we use it for to talk about hypothetical conditions in the past and also their results in the past. For example, if I had studied harder, I would have graduated. If I had been born in England, I would have been fluent. If I hadn't slept in, I wouldn't have been late to class. Or just another example for a past perfect continuous, if I had been wearing new glasses, everyone would have noticed them. Again, in this case, instead of would in the second clause, you can use might, could, or should. For example, if I had done some revision, I might have passed the exam, or I could have passed the exam, or I should have passed the exam. These are all used for third conditional again. That's some interesting regarding. Okay, some other results are coming in for the previous questions. If a dog in the street started talking to me in English, I won't start my hair and I would run to stop. Close hospital. Okay. The closest hospital. Okay. You would run there. Okay. Another one. If famous movie stars meet him, I would wake up. All right. Good. Okay. Well, let's move on to the because I'd like to include also some mixed ones as well and inverted. So as for the questions here, at them, so would today have been different if you had woken up 2 hours late this morning, or if it had snowed last night? Let's have a in your answers or in your questions, you can also include might, could, should. And you can also think about the other ones if you want to answer those questions. How would your life have been different if you had studied something different at university? Or if you had been born in England? What would you have done if you had been born in ancient Egypt or you had met Princess Diana? Okay, as I can see, some of you did not hear when the third conditional is used. Third conditional is used to talk about hypothetical conditions in the past. So something that is only an imaginary past. You obviously can change it, but you imagine what if something had happened. And of course, the result is also in the past. And that will form you the if past perfect, perfect simple, or past perfect continuous with a would have plus past participle form. So just choose one of those. Okay, that's excellent. If I had been born in the ancient Egypt, I would probably have been a slave or a poor person. Yeah, that's probably true for everyone. Nobody can be a pharaoh. Okay, good. Well, we move on a little bit again. In the last part, we will include a little bit mixed conditionals as well. When we talk about the mixed conditionals, we talk about the mixture of the second and the third conditionals, which can be two options, of course. First, if you have a mixed conditional with a past perfect simple and continuous with a would bear infinitive ending. In this case, you have a hypothetical past condition with a present result. Of course, both of them are just imaginary. So saying something like, if I had listened to my parents, I wouldn't be in so much trouble now. So something didn't happen in the past, and something, some result it has in a present that is again just imaginary because I am in trouble. I didn't listen to them. That's what it means. And the other form is if plus past simple or past continuous with a would have past participle form. In this case, you're talking about hypothetical present, a condition with a past result. Something like if I had a mobile, I'd have called you last night. These are the mixed conditional forms as well. We can include them here because we the second and the third conditional to talk about these. So again, in the last, you can see a summary of the second and the third conditional. In hypothetical situations in the present, you use the second. If with a subject and past simple or past continuous with would infinitive form. Again, instead of would, you can use could as well and might. When you're talking about impossible situations in the past, or again, hypothetical situations in the past, you use third conditional, if plus subject with the past perfect, which can be either simple or continuous, with would have plus past participle. Instead of would, here you can use might, could, and should. Also in this level, we can include some of the inverted conditionals. It's rarely used because we only use it for formal texts. Never heard it in speech, but you may see it in a written text. And so just, this is also a conditional form, but a more formal way to express something. When we want to sound more formal in a first conditional form, we usually use should. What is interesting about this one is we change the order a little bit and say something like, should the situation worsen, the United Nations is prepared to send in peacekeeping forces. So as you can see in the first phrase or the first clause, you can have should, subject, and an infinitive form of your verb. This is the first conditional form. In inverted conditional, if you want to sound more formal. Another one for the second conditional, again, the more formal way, the inverted conditional will be where the situation to worsen, the United Nations would be prepared to send in a peacekeeping force. So in this case, again, you leave out if, your where comes at the beginning, subject to plus infinitive, and then the rest of the sentence is the same as if it would be in a second conditional. And a more formal way to use in the third conditional is when you use had at the beginning. Had the situation worsened, the United Nations would have been prepared to send in a peacekeeping force. So as you can see, again, you drop if from your clause, you bring had towards, then subject, then the third form of your verb, and the rest of the sentence is the same as it would be in a third conditional sentence. It's only interesting to look at it in parentheses because you rarely see this kind of form unless you read some formal texts in English. Some other things that you can or we can mention here is the difference between the American and the British grammar. With the second and the third conditionals in informal conversation, speakers of American English sometimes use would or would have also in the if clause. So if you ever hear that, obviously it's correct, it's American English. For example, the sentence in British English would be, how would you feel if this happened to you? The same sentence in American English can be, how would you feel if this would happen to you? Or this was second conditional, or in third conditional, the British would say, I would have felt awful if that had happened to me. And in the US, you can say, I would have felt awful if that would have happened to me. These are possible ways to use second and third conditional, again, only in informal conversation. You won't see it in any sentence. Okay, in the meantime, some previous answers are coming in. Antonella said if she had met Princess Diana, she would have probably asked her son's numbers. Which one? When Michaela is asking for examples. I don't know which examples you meant. If it's for the inverted conditional, then I'll share it in a minute. Just let me have a look. So first one, first conditional inverted. Uh, hmm? Okay, so for a no internet connection, so inverted conditionals. Let's see. Okay. Okay, there it is. So that's the example for the first conditional in inverted conditional forms. Should the situation worsen, the UN is prepared to send in peacekeeping forces. The same sentence in second conditional form is the following.